This is Boobie Miles, who was an absolute monster out of the backfield for the Permian Panthers football team, until one game he took a pitch and his whole life changed.
Miles cuts to his right. Beverly takes him down.
Boobie had effectively obliterated his ACL, and he could never play football the same way again, and was never able to fully actualize his potential. But what if Boobie Miles was able to finish out his high school career and go to college? Well, we're about to figure that out today as we visit this alternate timeline and follow Boobie Miles on his road to glory. Now, Boobie Miles was highly recruited, so he had a ton of options of where he could go to school. But he had hinted at his quarterback Mike one time where he wanted to go.
Move out of Odessa, Texas one day, baby. And you're gonna come visit Boobie Miles in California. And you're gonna smile, or I'm gonna stick about 4 pudding pops up your white ass.
USC was the school that Boobie liked, and they liked him a lot too. And Boobie felt like even though he would start third on the depth chart, he would have a pretty good chance to gain in that starting spot. So to start Boobie Miles' freshman season, we going to LA, baby! See, now out the gate, coaches are already making Boobie mad. Because why are they sending him these long texts? Because they know damn well that he don't know how to read.
But one of the bonus features, what's that word? Distinguish.
So Boobie just says, all right, bro, just give me the ball. And in the first practice, they immediately knew they had something special. Boobie Miles was embarrassing USC's starting defense, literally running circles around them and high-stepping on his way into the end zone. But Boobie would obviously spend most of his time getting better at football. You know, he would spend a little bit of time in the classroom. But Boobie was not here to play school, and he even let the media know that.
How are your grades, Boobie?
I get straight A's. I'm an athlete.
In what subject?
Hey, there's only one subject, it's football. Ain't no other subject, you know?
Now, the first game of the season, Boobie did not get to play at all. And he made sure to let the coaches know after the game that they better start playing him, or this season was going to be over real quick, because USC would end up losing their first game by 5 points. Hey, and the coaches listened because they put him right in a position battle. And if you think for even a schmeckle of a second that there was ever an opportunity that Boobie Miles wasn't going to take care of business here, then you are absolutely positively fried, my friend. Because Boobie Miles did so good, he didn't just earn second string. The coaches were already thinking about making him the starter. But the coaches did tell Boobie that he was going to get some action against Utah State. He wasn't going to be starting or nothing, but, you know, he could play a little bit of receiver. And they did end up putting him out there. Now, they didn't need to throw the Boobie on the first couple plays. As a matter of fact, Miller Moss actually threw a huge bomb down the sideline to get USC down at the goal line. But then they tell Boobie to just run a hitch. And then he goes up, turns around, and says, "Mwah." Snag the ball out the air. That's the first touchdown of his career. And you see, he actually gets up and celebrates like that because he's trying to say that the coaches were sleeping on him. He should have been playing. And most of the time that Boobie was in the game, man, he was doing a really good job. He was running the ball well. He was catching the ball well. I mean, honestly, Boobie Miles could do anything.
He can block, tackle, score the touchdown, snap the ball, hold the snap, and kick the extra point. Hell, the boy will fill up the Gatorade cooler, walk the dog, and paint your backcourt. Ow! And he can pass!
All right, maybe he can't pass. But he could do a whole bunch of other stuff. And today, he did enough to help USC beat Utah State. And he even told the coaches that if they play him more, this is the worst game that he'll ever have. So he went into the next week making sure to upgrade some of his skills, and the coaching staff had finally come to their senses. And as soon as they gave Boobie the opportunity to become the starting halfback, he knew that all he had to do was just dominate this practice like he's done in every single practice throughout his football life. And by the end of it, they would and did know that Boobie, well, he was about to be the ultimate difference maker for them. And he couldn't be more excited to lock in and get ready for his first game starting against Michigan. Boobie begins his career as a starter with a handoff, and he immediately gets to showing how shifty he can be. Getting him the ball out of the backfield is going to be huge, and USC's playbook has more than enough plays to do that. They had Boobie blocking on the first drive, which ended up with no points, and although that was pretty stupid, USC is able to get their stuff back together on the next drive by getting the ball to Boobie and letting him do his magic out of the backfield. And really, Miller Moss did a good job on this drive distributing the ball all over the field, because he caps his drive off with a 20-yard touchdown to the back of the end zone. But now on this next drive, Boobie thinks it's his turn to score. So although he's supposed to run a corner, he runs a post anyway. And somehow it actually works. He catches the ball and runs past all the defenders, eventually making it into the end zone to make this game a 14-point lead. And coming out of halftime, Boobie was feeling good, until he runs a route across the middle and a linebacker says, "Shaplaka!" forcing Boobie to fumble, giving Michigan the ball back. But it was all good though, because Michigan's offense is weak as hell. So USC just got back to handing the ball off to Boobie so they can start chewing some of this clock out.
They're getting this guy lathered up.
Michigan's defense was already getting tired of playing Boobie, because sometimes he would get the ball and say, "Hey," and make them look like a goofy boy. And you could tell the emotions were starting to run high, because one thing that Boobie will definitely do is talk smack and celebrate while he's doing it, like he did right here. But I ain't gonna lie, Will Johnson's not having that. He's kind of bitching Boobie right now. But it was all good. USC was up 21-9 by the fourth quarter. And even though Michigan would get some stops, it was getting real hard to contain Boobie Miles, especially as that clock continued to dwindle down under 2 minutes. And after USC runs the ball one more time before extending the lead, they're able to come back out and take a knee and put this game away, giving Boobie his first win in college as the main contributor of the team. And although he only ended up with 77 rushing yards, that boy also had 15 receptions for 194 yards through the air. And the country better be careful, because USC thinks they found their best running back since Reginald Alfred Bush Jr. And Boobie thinks he's going to be better than him. And the fans seem to think so too, because Boobie is already becoming a fan favorite. So going into his next game, he makes sure to upgrade some of his abilities, and he's ready to have an even better game and dominate against Wisconsin. To start this game off, Boobie was cooking up this Wisconsin defense like a hibachi chef at a graduation party. He was doing an excellent job weaving in and out of traffic and continuously picking up first downs. They even let him go out and throw another pass, but they're just lucky it didn't get picked off. They kept the ball on the ground, giving it to Boobie, and he was single-handedly moving this team downfield. He got them down within goal-to-goal territory before he eventually went out to pass, made a man miss, and then got himself into the end zone for the first touchdown of the game. But all that celebrating would be a little short-lived, because Wisconsin came out on the next drive and got a pick that went all the way to the crib for 6. And on top of that, USC got linemen that think they're the Karate Kid. Yeah, they might be in trouble, because what the hell? But they got right back to giving Boobie the ball, and it seemed to be a great idea. He was picking up lots of chunk yardage on the ground and kept helping to move the sticks. He eventually broke off a run to the outside, got down to the one and got stopped out of bounds. But Boobie was able to get into the end zone, and after he scored the touchdown, he immediately got up and did the Heisman pose, just to let everybody know that he was coming for it. But it was going to be an uphill battle when you have Miller Moss throwing another pick 6. As much as a threat Boobie is to opposing defenses, another player that Miller Moss should be throwing the ball to more is Zachariah Branch. And we see exactly why right here as he throws it over the top and goes all the way downfield and into the end zone for a touchdown. Now that this game is tied up, Boobie feels like it's about to be time to take over. And he was doing a great job doing that until there was some crazy miscommunication in the backfield, resulting in the quarterback throwing the ball off Boobie's head, resulting in a fumble that's picked up by the defense and taken all the way back for 6. USC's offense has now scored 42 points, 21 of those for Wisconsin. But still, that wasn't a big deal because USC had plenty of time left to get back in this game. And having Boobie Miles on their team was going to be the main reason why they were able to do that. But he even did a great job blocking when he had to help his team. At the start of the fourth quarter, they were down by the goal line, and they were able to toss the ball out to Boobie, who ran it into the end zone for a touchdown to tie this game up. But after Wisconsin scores a field goal, Boobie is about to go crit. Okay? Now, I think Miller Moss once said that Paul Crewe is his favorite quarterback, and it might be time to start questioning that. Because now USC is down by multiple possessions, and they need Miller Moss to get it together, but he doesn't. And instead throws his 4th interception of the game. Zachariah Branch still would score another touchdown that would put USC in a position to get back in the game. And on this final drive, when trying to go for the lead, Miller Moss throws another interception to end the game. And at this point, Boobie's starting to think that he should have just went to UCLA. Miller Moss ended up having 4 touchdowns but 5 interceptions, and actually had 6 turnovers because he literally threw a fumble. But Boobie Miles had an incredible game, going for over 120 yards on the ground and 170 yards in the air. After the game, Boobie got an NIL deal. And he didn't care what it was, he just wanted money. He was going to take it regardless. But going into the next week, he was ecstatic to find out that he not only won Big Ten, but National Offensive Player of the Week. And the whole country was starting to see what kind of player he was. And with the game against Minnesota coming up, he was ready to go out there and continue to ball out. On this rainy day in Minnesota, we started with Boobie getting tackled for no gain. And although Boobie's starting off slow, he's glad to have a guy like Zachariah Branch on his team, who can catch a pass and take it the distance for a long touchdown. But Boobie was still determined to make this the Boobie Miles show, and was getting real good at making people miss and breaking off tackles to pick up big yardage. He was eventually able to catch this ball out of the backfield and make his way down the sideline before leaping into the end zone for another touchdown on his season. And the coaches had realized that they just need to start giving Boobie the ball. They hand the ball off to him on the next drive, and he brings USC's offense down to the goal line before punching it in himself for another touchdown. And he was feeling himself so much that he crowned himself the king of college football. Boobie went out there and continued to make some great plays happen, picking up more first downs. But again, man, playing with Miller Moss is starting to feel like a punishment because what is he doing? But at least Minnesota didn't get their full 7 points, and USC could freely move down this field with a comfortable lead. Miller Moss was also starting to make some nice throws to help them get downfield, before handing the ball off to Boobie Miles, who was celebrating his way into the end zone for another touchdown. And yeah, man, when the quarterback is making throws like you see here, this offense could be moving at a whole different level. But all they really need to do is just get the ball to Boobie, and he's getting you almost 10 to 15 yards every single time. That boy Boobie Miles got into the end zone again on this game, and it was starting to feel possible for another Heisman Trophy to return to Los Angeles. And after Boobie takes another handoff before racing past everybody and celebrating his way into the end zone again, Minnesota had decided to throw the white flag. And USC ended up winning this game 45-9. And Boobie had a game with over 100 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. He won the conference and National Offensive Player of the Week again. And it was starting to get crazy because he was getting better and better each week, this time by upgrading his elusiveness. But now that USC is back to being ranked, they have to take care of business against Penn State, another top 25 ranked opponent. The Trojan offense started out this game pretty weak and was continuously getting stopped on third down. But they would eventually catch a rhythm, and everybody seemed to be working on the same page. With the help of Boobie Miles, they were able to get themselves down the field until they were eventually stopped on third down again, but they were at least able to get a field goal. And after that, it almost seemed like USC just flipped a switch, because their next drive they go for a 70-plus yard touchdown. And of course, it's Zachariah Branch on the reception. USC continuously found themselves downfield in scoring position. And even if they weren't all the way down the field, that wasn't really a problem when you had Boobie Miles on your team, because all it took was one cut, and he could be breaking his way downfield all the way into the end zone for a touchdown. USC found themselves up by 17 going into the fourth quarter, and Boobie Miles continued to put his stamp on the game. But once Boobie caught this pass out of the backfield and hit him with that "excuse me, hey," and there wasn't really much they can do. And Boobie Miles was starting to make a case for him really being the king. Or more like a conqueror, because he did not stop running until he had to. Eventually, USC was able to take a knee, and they walked out of there with a well-needed victory on their way to a potential playoff berth. Boobie ended up with over 150 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns, and probably over 100 yards receiving again. But he didn't care too much about his stats anymore, because at this point, he was winning Offensive National Player of the Week almost every week. But Boobie felt like he could do even more, and he was looking to prove that in his next game against Maryland. To start this game, USC was struggling a little bit, but Boobie was doing his part to make the team get downfield. He was continuously bursting through open holes and picking up big chunk yardage. They would even get Boobie more involved in the passing game, and it was working. They were moving their way towards goal-to-goal territory. But out of nowhere, of course, Miller Moss strikes again and throws another pick on his season. But the following drive, he would redeem himself by throwing a deep pass down the left side of the field that is completed by Zachariah Branch and gone into the end zone for a touchdown. And Miller Moss must have heard that Boobie might transfer after the season because he was going off in this game. Because although he threw an interception earlier, he was doing an excellent job moving the ball all over the field. And when Boobie has a quarterback who's playing really well, he is always going to thrive too. And this game couldn't have been a bigger indicator of that. Because Boobie Miles continued to run around this Maryland defense. And it almost felt like he just couldn't stop getting into the end zone. I mean, it was getting bad, man. He caught a pass out of the backfield and seen two defenders. And he didn't give a damn. He said, "Schwang," took them boys' ankles and jogged his way into the end zone. I'm telling you right now, bro, if you subtract 40 from his jersey number, then he would be looking real familiar right now. Because Boobie Miles really did look like the illegitimate son of Reggie Bush. Because he got into the end zone a couple more times before Miller Moss decides to take another shot at the end of the game. And who else but Zachariah Branch getting into the end zone once again for another touchdown on his season. It was almost like Boobie Miles was inspiring everybody to play better. They ended up beating Maryland 56-24, but it didn't really seem to matter anymore because that was almost expected of them now. And Boobie Miles definitely expected to have another great game against Rutgers. To start this game, they have Boobie Miles catching a pass out of the backfield. And he makes his way down the sideline for a big gain after snatching somebody's ankles. And on this opening drive, USC's offensive line was doing a great job blocking for Boobie, as he was continuously picking up first downs, even right here on fourth down. And for the very first drive, this was great, because they were getting closer and closer to the end zone, even on plays where Boobie Miles was juking himself out. And eventually, Boobie Miles would take USC into the end zone to give this game its first score. Somehow, USC got the ball back right at the goal line, and they just gave a jet pass to a receiver who took it into the end zone for another touchdown. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, though, because when USC got back out on offense, Rutgers' defense came out with an interception, and they ran it back for a pick six. But they got right back to the Boobie Miles show, because he was doing his part getting this offense down the field and moving them within goal-to-goal territory. On 3rd and goal, they were able to hand the ball off to Boobie, and he ran it into the end zone for a touchdown. But on a possession right before half, again, man, I don't know what is up with Miller Moss this season, but he ends up throwing another pick that goes to the crib. This guy is so good sometimes and then an absolute dog water other times. I don't get it. By the end of the 3rd quarter, it was tied up, and Boobie Miles was saying hey to his defenders as he moved past them for a first down. And he was single-handedly marching his team downfield until Miller Moss revealed mid-play that he's actually been playing for Rutgers this entire time, because he was basically giving them the game at this point after throwing another pick. It was starting to get to the point where the coaches didn't trust Moss to throw to anybody else except Miles. And not because none of the other receivers are good, but because when you pass to Boobie, he usually scores anyway, so why not? But by the end of the 4th quarter, it was tied up at 28. And even though Boobie had a nice run to get them in field goal range, the kicker ended up missing and the game got sent to overtime. And in overtime, all USC's offense had to do was score once Rutgers failed to score on their possession. So they knew the best course of action was just to hand the ball off to Boobie Miles. Because once they got to the goal line, all it took was one more handoff, and Boobie was in for another touchdown, this time to win the game. Boobie Miles, as a freshman, leads his team to a walk-off touchdown in overtime, all while going for over 150 yards and 4 touchdowns. After the game, he gets another NIL deal, which he doesn't even think twice about taking. Shout out to another Conference and National Offensive Player of the Week. But Boobie in college just kept upgrading. Because you see, with all the award ceremonies and the college football playoffs right around the corner, you can bet your cheeks that Boobie Miles is about to go crazy and find a way to get USC in the college football playoffs. And I'll be the first one to tell you guys right now, USC's next few opponents had about as much of a chance to guard Boobie Miles as your average 4th grader trying to guard a prime Shaquille O'Neal. Because Boobie Miles, well, I'll just show you. Yes, sir. Stupid boy. Thank you, y'all. Boobie Miles literally pulled up to Washington and started dancing in their house, and there wasn't a damn thing that they can do about it, and so could nobody else.
Hey. Train, gotta go.
And as the regular season was finally coming to a close, Boobie Miles had firmly asserted himself as one of, if not the very best college football player in all of the nation. But they had one more huge game in the Big Ten Championship against the #1 team in the nation, the Oregon Ducks. But before Boobie plays in that game, he has the urge to upgrade his gear. He just knows that if you look good, you feel good, you play good, and they pay good. So he went on about upgrading his helmet, and then upgraded his speed before he made his way over to the Big Ten Championship to play against Oregon. And Boobie started out this game pretty crazy, getting the ball out of the backfield and getting upfield quickly while making men miss on his way to huge gains. Boobie Miles did his usual thing and got his USC offense all the way down near the goal line before they passed the ball to him, and he just gently places it into the end zone for a touchdown. USC kept it up though by coming out the next drive swinging. Miller Moss throws a huge bomb down the right sideline, landing in the hands of one of the receivers who took it all the way into the end zone for a touchdown. Now up 7, Boobie Miles continued to do his part getting his team downfield. Whether on the ground or through the air, it didn't really seem to matter, and Oregon started to notice that. Eventually, they just direct snap it to Boobie, and he runs it into the end zone for another touchdown. After halftime, now up 2 possessions, USC knew to just get the ball to Boobie so he could chew the clock. But Boobie had other plans as he just continued to race into the end zone time after time. And even when the game seemed to be already over, Boobie was still going to work just to make sure that there was no way that Oregon can come back, even if it meant just settling for 3 points. Boobie won that game off of 182 yards and 4 touchdowns, something to be proud of. But after the game, Boobie found out that he obviously won a bunch of awards, like Player of the Year. He finally won his Heisman that he knew he was going to win all year, along with Best Running Back and a bunch of other awards that honestly Boobie did not care about anymore, because he had already proved that he is undoubtedly the best running back and probably the best receiver in the entire country. And plus, the biggest award of them all would come at the end of the year in the form of a championship. But first, Boobie and the USC Trojan have to take care of business right here in their first playoff matchup against the Texas A&M Aggies. To start this game, USC's offense was struggling in the rain. They were having a hard time moving down the field, but even when they weren't, the quarterback once again is throwing another interception in the red zone. They kept trying to get the ball to Boobie, but it just was not working, especially when this Texas A&M defense was locked in and getting to him in the backfield. And with Miller Moss throwing his second interception of the quarter, it's starting to look like USC might be in bad position this game. With that Aggie offense still failing to score though, USC still has a good opportunity to take control of this game. The quarterback does a good job keeping the ball in this play, but he almost gives away another possession by fumbling it away. But they started to give Boobie the ball more. They passed him the ball out of the backfield and he ran up and said, "Scoop, cheat." And then once he got down to the goal line, all it took was for him to just dive over the line, and he was in for the first touchdown of the day. After halftime, USC was down by 3, and they were all of a sudden back to struggling in this game. But more specifically was Miller Moss, because he was throwing his 3rd pick of the day, but this time going for 6. But it was okay though, because now down by 10, all they have to do is just give it to Boobie Miles. And like he has all season, it feels like he's just moving this offense down the field single-handedly. He had some real nice runs to get them within field goal range, but Miller Moss ended up throwing an incompletion on 3rd down that held them to 3. At the top of the 4th quarter, USC was down by a touchdown, and led by Boobie Miles, they were finding a way to get downfield. But I think one of the Texas A&M coaches might have made a call to the refs, because Boobie is clearly down here with possession. Granted, he does fumble it after he's down, but they still call it a fumble anyway. But luckily, even though Texas A&M picks up the ball, they still give Boobie Miles one more opportunity to bring his team downfield with 2 minutes left. And he immediately gets to doing that as they're starting to pass the ball to him out of the backfield, and he's picking up big first downs. Before on one of the next plays, Miller Moss decides to just take a shot deep, and it's caught. Zachariah Branch is taking this ball all the way into the end zone to tie this game up and bring USC back into this game. And the defense does their part by holding Texas A&M to no points, leaving USC with an opportunity to make something big happen, and this is about as big as it gets. Boobie Miles is running down the sideline, and he's already getting past midfield. With 37 seconds left, they hand him the ball again, and he's zooming down the sideline. It's starting to look like he has a clear path for a touchdown, but he starts celebrating early and gets pushed out of bounds. But it was all good though, because on the very next play, Boobie Miles was getting himself into the end zone for another touchdown, but this time to take the lead with under 30 seconds left. And after Texas A&M failed to score on offense, that was all she wrote, and USC won their first college football playoff game, bringing them past the quarterfinal and into their next game against Oregon. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that this is the third time that USC is matching up with Oregon. But they're going to have to take care of business again to get to the national championship. To start this game, USC was being stopped on multiple drives and being held to 0 points. By the end of the first quarter, they found themselves down by 14 points. But they were beginning to be led downfield by Boobie Miles, who was picking up big yardage on the ground. And eventually Miller Moss locked in and threw a dime over the top that went into the end zone for a touchdown. USC's defense did get them the ball back, but somehow Miller Moss immediately killed the momentum by throwing another interception on his season, and this one was going to the house. Down 14 now, Boobie is absolutely disgusted by what he's seeing. It feels like almost every third down they're getting stopped, and it's mostly because the quarterback is making terrible passes and missing open reads. They found themselves down by 21 near the end of the second quarter, but luckily they were able to get down near the goal line. And on the next play, Boobie Miles got in for a touchdown to cut this lead down to 14. That Oregon defense was definitely keying in on Boobie Miles, because they were always getting a lot of body to the ball when he had it. So Miller Miles decides to throw to some other people, and he's so lucky that this doesn't get intercepted. And instead, the wide receiver is taking this ball and running all the way downfield and getting USC within goal-to-goal territory. And even though Boobie is wide open for a touchdown, Miller Moss throws to the other side of the field, and it is intercepted. The USC's defense was really the MVP of this game because they were holding Oregon's offense at crucial moments. Still down by 14, USC's offense got within goal-to-goal territory and eventually was able to throw it in for another touchdown to bring it to 7. And with USC only down by 7, all they needed was one more touchdown to get back in this game, and somehow they would get it right here. Miller Moss throws a bomb to Zachariah Branch, and he is taking it all the way into the end zone from deep. And although Oregon's defense did finally get a touchdown to take the lead, USC came right back out, and Miller Moss throws another bomb. This time down the right side of the field, going for a long play. At the goal line, Boobie was able to punch it in, and all of a sudden this game was tied again. But when we move on to the next drive, it actually turns out that Boobie got in for a 2-point conversion. And now up by 1, Oregon has to get down the field, but they don't have enough time. And eventually USC is able to just take a knee and win this game. This game felt like a roller coaster of emotions, but somehow they were able to pull it out. Although Miller Moss throws interceptions, it was really nice to see that he loves taking shots. Boobie went for over 100 yards on the ground and over 100 yards in the air. And going into the biggest game of his life, he wanted to check out some of the records that he might have broken. And it turns out that he did break a few. Most receptions throughout a season, most yards throughout a season. And that only makes sense because USC is a passing team, and they use Boobie in the passing game a lot. But all those other records we're going to have to wait to be broken later. Because now Boobie was about to play in the biggest game of his life, the national championship against Clemson. To start this game off, they're getting Boobie involved early, and they're making plays early, juking out a couple guys for a first down. Boobie Miles was looking a little extra unstoppable on this drive. They gave him the ball about every single play, and almost every single time he was picking up another first down. He eventually got his team down within goal-to-goal territory, and somehow was able to pull off some witchcraft or something because he's pretty much tackled, but he stays up and gets into the end zone anyway. And he's so hyped he just jumps over a cameraman and starts waving to the crowd. Clemson came out to tie the game up, but Boobie was still doing his thing. They handed the ball off to Boobie from the 40-yard line, and he just ran around the edge and ended up snatching somebody's ankles. Broke off another tackle and got into the end zone for another long touchdown. Our Clemson defense was pretty good, though, because they were getting stops in the backfield and even stopping them on third down multiple times. But most of the time, man, when Boobie was in open space, he was going to pick up a first down. And Boobie was really starting to embarrass Clemson's defense. They made their way down to the goal line before handing the ball off to Boobie Miles, who brings it into the end zone for another touchdown. And although Clemson's offense was definitely doing their thing, getting the lead back after half, Clemson's offense did not have a weapon like Boobie Miles, who the coaches felt comfortable directly snapping the ball to and letting him make a play himself. Just like he did right here as he takes this ball all the way down the sideline and gets into the end zone for another touchdown. At this point in the second half, Boobie just wanted to get another score to make this a 2-possession lead. So they continued to get him the ball as he led this offense downfield. He would have one drive stall out completely, but then there was another drive where they got down near field goal range, and although they got stopped on third down, they were able to take the lead. Now up by 3 in the fourth quarter, Boobie was trying to lock in, and he was doing as much as he could up until they got stopped again on third down. He had to come off the field with under 2 minutes left and just watch his defense potentially save this game. They were able to not only kick a field goal, but their defense actually did get a stop that allows USC to run this ball out, and Boobie was definitely running the ball on the last play. He didn't even have to. He just wanted to get more yards on his season before he is officially crowned a national champion. USC has finally done it, and all they had to do was just recruit a healthy Boobie Miles. All season long, he put this team on his back, and this game was absolutely no different, as he rushed for over 280 yards with 4 touchdowns, and helped to officially bring a national championship back to LA. And now that the season is officially over, it's time to check out Boobie Miles' stats. And I think it's safe to say that he did more than above average. 2,300 rushing yards and 30 touchdowns, while also having 2,700 receiving yards and 22 touchdowns. Over 5,000 all-purpose yards and 50 touchdowns just from him alone. So what if Boobie Miles went on to play D1 college football? Well, it seems like he might have turned out to be one of the best players of all time. But who else would you guys like to see in college football 25 to see what would happen if they played? Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. And don't forget to comment down below who you guys want to see next. If you got to the point in this video, just know that I appreciate you all for watching. I hope all of your favorite football teams win this weekend. And other than that, I'm going to catch you guys next time.